This video is intended to be an in-depth description of a light blade talisman named Seraphim. Starting with the first aspect of honoring the name of the archetype is Seraphimite. Seraphimite, this green ray stone right here, is a very lovely stone named after the archangels of the Seraphim realm. Seraphim is a very lovely green ray stone, as can be seen, that has a very strong I am calm template alignment. I'll be utilizing this rudimentary stick figure design to be a visual cue for the description. So Seraphimite has obviously a heavy green ray stimulation connotation, which obviously affects the heart chakra, but it also works with a powerful respiration of seraphic energy throughout the entire centers of the system. So you can think of this as a very powerful I am calm alignment to produce a very smooth and stable Kundalini current that was very beneficial for any kind of modalities of dis-ease be rapidly discharged from the system, so the patterns of wholeness or etheric factory blueprint settings of one's I am template is much easier to maintain the physicality on the system of this entire higher frequency output. Seraphimite is just an amazing stone and probably one of my top 5 favorite stones in this timeline due to the fact that it is the premier healing stone of our age, pretty much, in my humble opinion, based on the seraphic resonance and the aspects of really having a very nourishing, healing green ray frequency that is very Kundalini activating, yet very calming, and also very effective for emotional elasticity to stay calm in one's divine centers and truth by that intensely nourishing concentration of a full light body spectrum activator that does actually indeed stimulate the entire chakra calm in unison, even though it's a green ray, heart-centered frequency. Once again, the Seraphimite here on the main blade band ignition with the Seraphimite larger piece to be an intensive focus of that exact frequency. To subcapacitate the energy running through the blade band like so is clear quartz. Clear quartz is a very lovely, humble, underrated stone due to the aspect of its ability to be programmable and also carry energies very neutrally through them and accelerate and amplify them. And a very clean vibratory resonance, which of course is a very smooth, clear, full electromagnetic spectrum resonator that actually stimulates the entire chakra calm and particularly is programmable with one's intentions. Hence, the utilization of that also works as a way to accelerate the frequency through the primary blade band, so the Seraphim ignites, clear quartz, Seraphim, etc. And continuing the blade band like so, as the energy ignites through this circuit right here, goes straight into this first lateral band of the transmutation blade band ratio, consisting of smoky quartz and hematite in the ignition order, combining like so, running up the side over here to this extra lateral band, going like so, and then redirecting right here. So this whole entire apex is a circuit of the transmutation ratio, both on a brass projective and silver receptive polarity. So you can think of that as an aspect of the silver and brass being utilized for the exact same ignition sequence of the transmutation ratio to make a very powerful receptive influx of receiving energy, and then a projective balance, ensuring the contact patch of, once again, smoke quartz and hematite are in balance with the receptive and projective balances of the human morphic field. So smoky quartz is a pretty self-explanatory stone for any crystal lover that is a very powerful stone for transmuting negativity in tandem with hematite. So both of these stones in this ignition sequence both successfully ground all excess stray radial energies through the entire chakra column, through the root chakra, right into the earth star chakras, into the earth meridian matrix for processing. So you can think of that aspect of that filtration center that runs through the primary blade banding as a way to ensure the contact patch of all the excess energy has a safe transmutation bypass into Mother Earth to have a strong earth meridian matrix reprocessing capacity, which in itself is a very powerful aspect to the analogy of carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, make a very strong transference of any kind of stagnant energies within the system to ensure the contact patch has a very rapid discharge, so nothing stagnant that can cause the matters of dis-ease will actually stick to the field under that concentration, as well as you can think of it as an analogy as energetic Teflon. So in that aspect, when any kind of stray radial energies come into the proximity field of this device in play, you can think of the outer emanations of the auric field having a strong buffer where it diffuses the current so it doesn't stick to the host or the avatar under duress, so to speak. Duress is kind of a strong word, but I'm in the flow of, I guess, do my best to explain how this can be very shielding, quite simply, and insulating to the aspect of diffusing the receptive current to have a strong buffer to make sure all different kinds of frequency energies are strongly grounded all times through, so nothing of lower density frequencies can really actually stick to the field when this is in play. That is at least the intentional design of that exact same configuration, like so, on that exact ignition sequence. And this right here will be the apex band. So this is obviously where the necklace will hook into, but the top ignition point from basically as it's worn in play, this point right here consists of prehnite, which is a lovely third and fourth activator stone, as well as a tremendously beneficial metaphysical stone, actually, in a lot of ways. It consists of the earth and water elements and is made a very powerful Raphael force alignment. So you can think of that particular green ray resonance being the proper antennae or tuning of a dial of a radio to be into the Raphael force of the archangel sphere, or the seraphic sphere, if you would, which is very complementary to the archetypal intention of this entire construct. So with that kind of strong, intensified focus of that seraphic draw, it makes a very powerful Raphael force natural frequency background buffer that of course can be utilized by the consciousness assisted technology of the wielder wielding this device to call upon higher frequency energies and wield for the practicing benefit of those under their jurisdiction. To subcapacitate that further is clear quartz. So the ignition sequence of prehnite, clear quartz, runs in a circuit like so. So this will be the apex of the energy as it goes more in alignment when it's worn to be in the higher centers. And the main engine right here is golden healer quartz. Golden healer quartz is a lovely stone of gold white light Christ frequency emanation or even source alignment, which makes it a very prominent purpose of this being the main engine of this tiny little device. With all things considered, how packed it is with different subroutines and energies for one circuit, it is pretty small and condensed for how complex it is. With that gold white light resonation right here also provides a very powerful source connection to the high heart, to the source of creation, which is the whole reason for the season of these constructs to come into reality. And I'll continue with the main blade facing down here before I go any further. At this opposite apex right here, you can't quite see in this video, underneath this seraphinite right here actually is fulgurite. Fulgurite, right there, is petrified lightning. So that is actually the power of lightning caught in sand, which is very intense. And so the aspect of having lightning solidified in a crystalline structure also transfers to the energy body of a dramatic intensity of Kundalini through a very strong contact patch of the Earth stars, right here, like so, going all the way through the entire chakra column for massive light body activation. But luckily, taking that power of lightning and strapping it to a very complicated filtration, stabilization subroutine, theoretically, intentionally at least, means that you get the most out of that cosmic cardinal storm energy to be focused into intention and prayers. So the aspect of fulgurite is quite critical in intensifying one's intentions or prayers for those who are seeking the practitioner's assistance, for relevant example, as well as being a nice Kundalini activator. So the lightning also makes a very powerful, strong activation to the entire chakra column through everything, because it has the power of lightning caught in stone to really intensify the entire frequency and resonance with the wielder of this device, as well as making a very strong prayer intention shift of energy for the practitioner's projective service to whoever is under their jurisdiction. To further augment the Kundalini aspect that works very complementary to the two previous stones mentioned of seraphinite and fulgurite is serpentine. Serpentine is a very humble, common stone in mostly appearance and of course in also availability, but is a very powerful Kundalini generator also. It works in tandem with seraphonite quite lovely to give very nice cellular respiration, as well as with that kind of consistent Kundalini purified field that would basically discharge any thought constructs or impediments that would actually diminish the natural flow of one's divine centers or their higher blueprint manifested or anything impeding the light body progression in general, in tandem, work very lovely to powerfully raise the Kundalini. So that's an aspect too, of course, of this device. It has a very strong, prominent Kundalini generation broadcast, yet designed to be a very smooth, stabilized variant. For anybody that's ever experienced more violent Kundalini effects in their reality, this is a very powerful antithesis or basically contingency to that, to have a full light body resonance, very smooth in the aspect, which I'll explain further where this hood will be installed, how these things are actually stabilized out through this whole entire frequency broadcast. And this right here, of course, is the lovely, famous lapis lazuli, a stone predominantly known to be utilized for past life regressions, as well as one's psychic truths or higher mind capacities, or their cities, which is, of course, another word for psychic powers. And it's a very prominent stone for the just general psychic capacity in general, based on the fact that it's a wind elemental stone that strongly stimulates the 5th and 6th chakras, as well as being utilized in ancient Egypt and different aspects of royalties from here and there. A very well utilized stone in the morphic field of human consciousness memory due to its royal nature. So it's very powerful for also keeping one's higher truth in alignment, particularly when they're wielding this device for the purpose of practicing to have the wisdom and particularly the insights required to really be of assistance to maximize that effectivity for the best way to put this was, I guess, the contributing factors energetically that would manifest as a physical disease in general, to be able to have those insights, not just to know what's wrong, but also have the insights to particularly do something about it, to put it quite simply. So lapis is a great stone of wisdom and one's sovereign nature. Speaking of sovereign nature, this right here is the lovely Libyan gold tektite, a lesser known cousin to the green ray moldavite that's gained quite a bit of notoriety. Libyan gold tektite was a stone of the pharaohs. Pretty powerful concept right there is that, according to legend, the Jedi, or the Jed, the wizards of the pharaohic court would remote view to find this particular stone in 150 square miles of Libyan desert. I only laugh because the story's legend is apparently true, and it's just really fascinating. I digress, pardon me. And so this stone right here was utilized to be carved into a scarab beetle to be the central power breastplate of the god king pharaoh, to charge the rest of the energy of the old breastplate he would wear, as that was his station. So having that right here makes a very prominent focus of the sacrum and solar plexus in tandem of a high fire yield, except it's of a mysterious celestial origin, so it has very much cosmic higher fire energy that is a strong storm elemental frequency in tandem with the fire. So the concentration of the energy, of course, directs to the sacrum as well as the solar plexus, the fire elemental corresponding aspects of the chakric body, but also makes a very powerful manifestation capacity, which dramatically intensifies one's intention, which of course can be applied in aspects of the practitioner's will through their divine connection to actually broadcast energy through the palm chakras to be of true, tangible, vibrational alteration assistance. And always, of course, in the highest good. So this frequency has a dramatic intensification of the solar plexus and is a very powerful manifestation aid, as well as a very strong gut instinct shielder. So if you, of course, like many that even see these videos, are very energy sensitive and don't understand what high empathy can be when you receive energy. So of course the sacrum is a receptive polarity chakra. So when you kind of just feel things in your gut that don't feel good, that's an aspect that this is very successful for countering, which in my personal life has been very helpful, of course, with the aspect of having a natural buffer that keeps the sacrum from taking the imprintations, particularly in a practitioner situation of one's dis-ease, not in a more literal way, but more like either mental, physical, and spiritual connotation. And the transference of a session can be sometimes hard to avoid the greater the trauma cohesion. So that stone by itself makes a very strong emanation positive frequency shield to strengthen that sacrum, which in itself is very highly useful. Yes, quite the amazing stone. Moving on to the legendary Moldavite. This green ray stone has gained quite a bit of notoriety in this timeline for being a very powerful cosmic activation stone, to put it lightly. And its high intensive green ray polarity is known to bring one in their true heart center. So you can think of this as an analogy where that kind of concentration and alignment of that frequency of Moldavite, putting one so into their Dharma configuration that any aspects that are not in their highest absolute dharmic timeline can be radically altered in their life. And so the notoriety of Moldavite, of course, under that context, has been quite the infamous stone that has been rather chaotically categorized as a stone that ruined people's lives, because it so in fact carries that frequency of one's divine blueprint that any false self matrix notions that are the mental centers particularly, and thought constructs and different things of that nature, or any kind of impediments really blocking one's holy grail configuration connection to source, gets rapidly changed. So in that aspect too, one of the intentions I mentioned, just like the fulgurite, with this such a complicated subroutine of many different filters and buffers and stabilizers, which I will still get to next, it is designed to get the most out of that cosmic alignment, reality shifting perception to what put one in their true sovereign dharmic factory operating system, kind of like, back to like true dharmic blueprint, etheric blueprint to their highest level, is to mitigate any kind of undesirable chaotic shifts and changes to make this whole process of that kind of dharmic alignment as smooth as possible, which will make more sense as I go further in the description. So that's Moldavite, a great stone of synchronicity, magic, and one's highest destiny, quite simply, to put it condensed, and a very prominent, powerful green ray stone of the Holy Grail, as they say in legend. This right here is Chaurite. Chaurite is a lovely purple ray wind stone that has a very high yield 6th, 7th, and non-physical chakra activation capacity. And more in practical aspects too, is with that kind of sovereign purple activation of those centers, makes a very strong grounding pathway actually through the entire energy systems, and also stimulates the Earth Star chakras to encourage the maximum integration of light through the physical body, which can then be successfully grounded into tangibility and reality through the Earth Meridian Matrix points. Which is pretty fantastic to say, obviously, and very resonant complementary to the entire frequency of the Seraphim frequency energy. So also in more practical terminology, that proper frequency energy alignment aligns one to their dharmic destined path very easily to truly see what they are in creation, who they are in creation, and to have the recollection, and then to act, and then the activation to actually utilize it for the greater good of creation. That is truly the gift of Chaurite by itself in that capacity, as a fantastic stone for just really purging any kind of transmutation-wise for negativity through the higher mind centers, any kind of false self-thought constructs that would interfere with one's true dharmic anchoring into reality. This is a perfect counter to that kind of breaking the gap of mental constructs in that aspect. And like I've mentioned many times in this video so far, taking that frequency and running through a very complex subroutine, you get the most out of each thing by complementary vibrational compound interest, obviously. And down here, on the main side of the core, oh yes, and also the oak core of this entire device comes from my lovely backyard from my tree buddies, just for reference. So the oak core being utilized is a very intentional design to have a strengthened frequency for all this higher frequency complex subroutine. Oak, of course, has been known to be the tree of kings, the tree of the gods, tree of heroes, all that stuff like that, because oak quite simply has a very dense atomical rate of the green. So another aspect too of the carbon-based bandwidth of the wood sphere that resonates very closely to our carbon-based energy fields avatars is the slight alteration of like the different pitches of wood actually do have an effect on the overall vibration of any given device. But to keep it more relevant for this video, oak is a very dense, strong, slow and steady, stable, strengthening frequency, just like the oak tree itself, pretty self-explanatory. And that is why I was chosen for like this frequency to ensure the strength of the seraphic broadcast for the wielder of this device for those she serve is stable and strong and being utilized to the highest. And now it's time to finally get into the section where this white leather hood will be installed. White, of course, is the full electromagnetic spectrum ray of the 7 rays that is combined to make a white frequency. So obviously it has multiple purposes. It has also an insulation to insulate these finer crystals under here to aka also protect them when this, of course, in use. And to be a color therapy broadcast, as energy runs through this entire frequency, closing its circuit and its vibration, having the white leather also works as another color therapy filter to have the white ray emanation diffuse through the 7 rays very evenly. So starting down here, these are actually very key important points of this entire device to talk about the stability frequencies. So the stabilization of red jasper, which stimulates and stabilizes the root chakra, is a very strong base chakra stabilization frequency, which of course encourages the grounding all this energy through the earth meridian matrix, through the earth stars, in a very stable way. The stability of the agates and jaspers utilized this are quite critical to have a very slow is smooth, smooth is fast longevity frequency to actually have this be a more prominent, higher dimensional device, so to speak, with much more stability into the human avatar's diffusing. So, moving on with that concept right here is fire agate. Fire agate is a very lovely stabilization of the root, sacrum, and solar plexus, the lower 3 essentially. And it makes a very stabilized stimulation of these points. And so it's very much a zest for life, enthusiasm, frequency, and a very good antidepressant frequency in that regard. Because it also stabilizes. It, of course, naturally, in tandem with red jasper, has a very nice stabilized root aspect, which is very advantageous for grounding this energy into tangibility for the utilization for the practice. That's what it keeps coming back to. Obviously, in these videos, I will repeat myself when the points are being very well made with the aspects of the applications that have a certain bearing for the overall intention of this design. So continuing with that zest for life frequency is ruby and zoisite. So ruby by itself, of course, is known as the most prominent red ray stone in the mineral kingdom, utilized by kings and queens like time immemorial, basically, to put it quite simply. And it's a very powerful red ray activation corundum, which is a very strong, dense atomical version of the red ray stimulation of the root chakra. So this definitely carries the full frequency of the enlightened base chakra unimpeded. Ruby is a very fantastic stone for that purpose. But so, of course, that's a very hot, fiery kind of action orientation frequency. But what's very beautiful about this natural synergistic combination is that it's also grown inside green zoisite. Zoisite actually is one of the more prominent, powerful stones in the mineral kingdom to have the heart-mind coherence strongly activated. So when you have the trifecta of the intensive passion with the heart-mind coherence, that's a very powerful trifecta of one's true self manifesting in one reality with gusto, which is often at times advantageous in the true spiritual path and the inner work being done by the practitioner in service to creation. So that, of course, brings a very passionate heart-mind coherence to really have the who you really are in a very passionate way. It's quite lovely for that purpose, and a very perfect stone to add to be another counter antithesis to have such a high vibration seraphic frequency that's incredibly healing in its very potency closed loop circuit. So continuing with the agates, this right here is moss green agate. Moss green agate is a very lovely water elemental green ray agate, which of course, like I mentioned, the agates and jaspers in the Mineral Kingdom are the most stabilized variants of the respective color spheres as well as their elemental composition. So moss green agate is a very lovely fourth and base stabilizer, which dramatically actually encourages the template of one's higher etheric blueprint to stabilize into their true nature. You can think of it as almost like a more direct vibrational talisman to the factory settings of the idealized human avatar to be stabilized and anchored. I can't express how important the stability of these kind of frequencies are in any application to really get the most out of them in a very passive, stabilized, just general quality of life kind of way. And over here on the backside, and in great prominence right here, is blue lace agate. That is the largest spectrum of the agates utilized in this whole frequency because blue lace agate is very critical for counselors or practitioners to stabilize the fifth chakra. So when the fifth chakra is fully stabilized by the blue lace agate, which is a water elemental stone also, it makes a very strong stabilization of one's higher wisdom truth, particularly in a counseling modality, which is very, very useful for any practitioner to be able to be of a tangible assistance to, once again like lapis, see the aspects of what are contributing factors that are causing the deficiency or dis-ease, and to be able to speak that in a very fluid, cohesive, comprehensible manner while they're tapping into their spiritual progresses as well as their higher guidance, to put it into very stabilized, pragmatic terms for the listener of such wisdom. So blue lace agate is amazing, useful stone for any kind of modality of metaphysical practice, and in general, being able to talk in this incarnation is quite helpful, and that's very much a stabilizing higher spectrum of that concept. And to further intensify the fifth chakra focus, right behind that is turquoise. Turquoise is the classic stone of earth, fire, water, wind, and is a lovely fifth grade focus of those elemental spectrums, hence it's known as the stone of wholeness for that regard. So with that kind of wholeness of the elemental spectrum, obviously it's very similar to the entire pranic centers as well as any kind of subtle meridians to ensure that one's wholeness and truth makes a very strong manifestation into the conscious self-operating system. And it's a lovely, of course, complementary frequency to be in termination with the blue lace agate to stabilize that truth. This right here, of course, is the lovely rose quartz, a highly underrated stone because it is a pink ray capacity frequency generator. That is the stone that has a very strong divine love resonance. So even a small little dose running through this whole circuit also embeds that pink ray divine love through the whole structure, which of course is the most important force in the universe to be in alignment with, and it's practical for everything in life because all things in balance, earth, fire, water, and wind, but love, that fifth element, there's no need for balance. That is the premier force behind everything, connection point. And right here is black tektite. So black tektite is also the extraterrestrial frequency stone that is a result of a meteorite impacting sand to vaporize and catch that cosmic jolt of energy from an extraterrestrial source entering the Earth plane. So in that regard, it carries the frequency of that kind of jolt, and it's just like a space obsidian. So it's a formless glass that's manifested from that kind of meteoric impact. And what that means is just like the fulgurite I mentioned previously, that kind of intensive impact of that energy has a very strong containment of that force. And so it's a black ray stone which predominantly activates the Earth stars in tandem from the Earth Marine Matrix as a very strong Kundalini activator as well. So it has a very powerful way of really throwing off any kind of densities through the entire system. And luckily, for this intent and purpose, it's a black ray stone, so it keeps the contact patch of the Earth stars at the center focus point of the black ray as energy courses up the entire chakra column to be a light body generator. So it's a very lovely stone, of course, to have in tandem with everything else described here. And back over here, speaking of black ray stones, this is shungite. Shungite is a stone very much in vogue right now due to the fact that it's known to be the most prominent EMF 5G radio wave mitigator in our timeline. Obviously, the aspects of 5G and different like microwave waves or whatever like they're kind of subtle rays that are now being introduced in our timeline that humans were not privy to back in the day before these things really existed in great amounts. This stone is a carbon-based black ray stone that actually makes a very successful bypass of this energy, and like a charcoal filter, makes a very powerful filtration concept that grounds the excess energy into the Earth Meridian Matrix for reprocessing. So obviously it's very self-evidently advantageous in this timeline to have this kind of little charcoal filter frequency through the entire buffer, which of course insulates the field further from those kind of harmful waves and rays that can harm the subtle DNA of, once again, a naturally patterned light body emanation. So, very useful stone in this timeline, and hence its gained great notoriety. This right here is scolecite. Scolecite is a very lovely white ray stone of divinity that makes a strong activation of the 6th, 7th, and non-physical chakras to anchor the inner peace or the witness self. It is a very powerful stone for the clearing of the 6th, 7th mind centers, basically, and to be in one's true divine inner peace through one's inner knowing from that spiritual realm connection, more intensified from that white ray focus. So scolecite is also a very powerful stone for balancing any kind of serotonin levels and things of that nature, like the brain chemistry, and very powerful for just keeping that white ray of divinity frequency through the entire subroutine of this device. I believe that would be the entire section will be hooded and most of the crystalline composition. I will circle back to the core once again, which of course has selenite on both sides of this oak core. Selenite is an amazing stone based on the fact that it's a one elemental stone that clears the 6th, 7th, and non-physical chakras very effectively to have the entire template of the higher self awareness ground through the centers. And a more practical application of this exact device, as a matter of fact, almost all, I take it back, pretty much all light tech has a variation of selenite in its structure due to a very important fact right there, is that selenite will take entire frequency current, it will amplify, harmonize, and purify them in that kind of trinity. So this entire frequency going through is harmonized, purified, and then of course accelerated together. So when you have that kind of neutral acceleration frequency broadband, and by itself, selenite in the raw is very effective for clearing any kind of stray densities in the entire auric field matrix. But utilized in a frequency application is very actually it's a staple. It's a necessity. It's not just advantageous. I find that being the more core important pieces is to encourage one's higher self sovereign perception as they're in service to creation being everything. To really mitigate the electromagnetic interference of any kind of thought constructs, any kind of negative energies of any kind, to be in the spiritual contact patch, then of course with all these other frequencies going on, to bring that into reality to actually make it real and tangible. So those are an important feature of this device, is the selenite for that purpose. And next to the selenite is the 4 spectrums of kyanite I have easy access to, of black, orange, green, and blue kyanite. Kyanites are very effective for rapidly transferring energy patterns throughout the entire system. So you can think it rapidly transfers energy to the projective and also bridges any kind of incoming energy. So the black kyanite, you could think of it making a constant diffusing of energy through the Earth-Star Meridian matrix at a very quick rate, so that any kind of incoming energy has a constant bypass ground. And the green energy, when basically puts you in sphere with your higher natural green resonance of your spiritual connection that is very hard to interfere with such a rapid transfer of energy being received, we're talking about the intake aspect of this, that puts you in connection with your true spiritual nature through the heart. In tandem with the orange kyanite, makes a very strong spiritual connection to one's astral creativity or one's higher truth nature very rapidly. And to further expand all of that, it's blue kyanite, which very rapidly bridges neural pathways to the higher self-configuration and cuts through any kind of fog and clarity. So kyanite in general is also very powerful for bridging energies projectively too. So you can think of one's intentions or prayers being highly intensified through the focus of the four rays of transference from the base, black, orange, green, and blue, to simply bridge things into make magic, because magic's base root word means to make real. And so that aspect of those 4 in tandem makes a very powerful continuity of transference and proper receptivity, as well as proper bypassing of energy. So that makes the transferability of the energy very rapid from top to bottom, and ensuring the aspect of another layer of Teflon, energetically speaking, to ensure the proper energy receptivity has a proper safe bypass and proper alignment. Then, in tandem with particularly the blue kyanite, being the higher self, higher mind neural pathway bridger, so that's very integral for grounding the true etheric higher self source template into the physical avatar, and also at the same time mitigate the false self imprintations the world has to offer, and to keep one insulated in their divine truth as they serve creation, quite simply. And Kyanite is a great stone for diplomacy in all generals, because you can think of an aspect of when you're speaking to somebody, and if it's a very disharmonic frequency and the receptive party has a kind of a hard time hearing you, which is obviously my daily life, talking this kind of far out metaphysical jargon is my life's prerogative. So being able to align with another candidate, then the Kyanite rapidly bridges the gaps between the 2 points, so that diplomacy and harmony between the two separate divisitory separations of the fields rapidly transfers through the 4 filters. So you can even think about that in a practical application too, by this being a radial background frequency generator working as a complex shield that can be transferred to the recipient of whoever is talking to this person, or whoever's interacting with the practitioner's energy field, and the energy field of the practitioner is tapped into the seraphic realm. Then, of course, the transference is like a flash drive, can be transferred file-wise to rapid transfer to the codes. Yeah, that's kind of a long short of that whole digression. And in summary, the seraphic broadcaster, right here named Seraphim, is designed to make a very powerful emanation of the wholeness pattern that would be very dissolving to dis-ease patterns that would actually cause different manifestations of ailments and aspects of mental, physical, and spiritually and emotionally in that trifecta, to ensure the whole seraphic pattern of one's highest template is effectively anchored to the candidate while they're in service of creation, to be able to transfer this kind of higher self radiance of their true spiritual gifts into practical action for those they serve. Well, 1,000 blessings to anyone that's watched this, and may the force be with us all.